Okay, Planar Wars, Part 3. This is the TRN Kirin. Throw up some pictures right now. It is a 14.5 millimeter. It is open back. It has changeable nozzles, 3 different types of tuning. That's the claim, however. I'll talk about that later. It's got a cable with different adjustable terminations like the Hook X. I'm going to slowly spin left, take a look at the graph. The sub bass is over mid bass. It's got a nice glide. It's a little bit elevated in the mids. It gets to the gain, and it's got a 12 or 13 dB rise, which is substantial. That's actually quite substantial. It's also got another peak at 5 kilohertz, which is a sensitive spot for many. Then it's got a crevasse. It's not that bad, especially in its location, but relative to what precedes it, it's a pretty deep one. And then it's got a spike at around 13.5 that is jumping out at you probably on the screen. Let me rotate back over here. This is part 3, so let's look back at what we've seen. The Hook X recommended, like it a lot. It's got its weak points, but its merits outweigh the weak points in my opinion. I like it. It's unique. It doesn't sound like any of the other planars, but it does have some of the benefits of planar. So I recommend that. The S12 is great. It's got a good fit. It's got very good build. It's got nice, probably the best bass of all the planars. The mids are pretty good. The treble has a little bit of excessive energy in the treble region. It doesn't bother a lot of the time, but sometimes it does. Another set that was recommended is the 7 Hertz, which is the original first set that came out that was reasonable for mass consumption. Prior to that had been a series of disasters. The Muse Hi-Fi was a set that I definitely did not recommend. The Tin Hi-Fi I think is a good set for people that EQ because it really presents a very blank canvas. It doesn't have too much bass, it doesn't have messed up mids, and it doesn't have too much treble. So if you want to add or subtract from that, that's the best if you're an EQer, I think, because it's essentially a derivative of the same drivers without the pre-enforced tuning. So for DIY people, that's probably the best set. And then there's the TRN Kirin that we have right now. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a spider graph, get a visual on here and overlay this for you guys. Let's start with the bass. I think that the bass on the S12 is great. I like it a lot. I also like the Hook X bass, so I'm going to put both of them in the bass area. That's why it's got a green and red kind of split in half, because they're both about the same in my book. As we move up to the mids, I think that the T1 Max, if we're just listening to stuff in the mids, because of what precedes it and follows it, it's your ability to focus on it is excellent, because there's really nothing getting in the way. Overall, in its stock form, probably not the best, but it's just its mids, the quality of guitars, the piano, a lot of things that exist there, part of the vocals. I don't think there's anything better than it, so I would cite that as the mids. The treble, I love the Hook X. I like the way that it plays back. It's good for long-term listening. There's a lot of people that have bought it and kind of fallen in love with it because it is unique, and I think in a good way. Resolution, in treble, I think let me go back to that for a second. I think I'd put the Hook X, and I think I'd put the TR1 Max or the S12. I'll edit that, and which ones I think should be 2. Resolution, going back to the 7 Hertz, just on sheer res, it was the set that kind of showed what planar can do when it's not tuned ridiculously. And, you know, ability to perceive micro details, I guess there's nothing that clearly passes it. So for legacy's sake, I'll just keep it up there. The stage, I think, is where the TRN Kirin sounds like it's the largest presentation. Again, that is a result of that type of tuning. That much energy at around 13.5, it gives you a sense of air and lends to that acoustic illusion of being in space, even though I wouldn't really recommend it being tuned that way. It does have that impact. There was a set a long time ago called the Phi-Do A83, I think, that had a big spike, and it kind of gave the same thing. The stage sounded huge. I won't even see artificial, but it just seemed quite large. The tonality, I also think the 7 Hertz actually has a large stage. I'm going to go back on a previous spider graph and say, yeah. The Hook X, the tonality overall is my personal favorite. I think for value, the S12, I think it was like $129 to $149, and the Hook X is more expensive, but it's solid. Mine actually works again. I don't know what happened with that. It's packaged with the accessories you need. It's an open back. I'll put that as the two values. And so that would be the Spidergraph. Let me go ahead and drop that down. Talking about music, let's talk about bass. Let me get to my notes. Let's start with Big Boy Killjill. Now we are talking about the TRN right now. I think Big Boy Killjill, I think the bass sounds good. Typical planar. It's got decent impact, though it sounds slightly different from dynamic drivers. There's a triple drop here. None of them seem to be slightly less than a decently tuned dynamic driver, and the speed of planar is a little bit faster, so I thought the Big Boy Killjill sounded good. Black Sabbath, Masters of Reality, Sweetleaf, a drummer and a bassist going on at the same time at about 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Very high quality, as I learned from the Tin Hi-Fi P1. Prior to that, most of the dynamic drivers seemed to do a lot of masking and smearing. It didn't sound good. Bassist and drummer doing solos at the same time. Not ideal for dynamic. Planar does that well. Again, P1 introduced me to that, and all the planars that have followed pretty much have done it as good or notably better than dynamic drivers, because that's one of the benefits of planar right exactly here. That ability to take stuff between 60 and 120 hertz, to have it played at a decent volume and not totally mess up everything else because of the speed that comes along with a planar. Going to the mid bass, Sultans of Swing, where I'm checking for a bassist to pin down the track like he's supposed to, not step on Mark Knopfler's vocals or a guitar, because that's an iconic guitar play, and he's really supposed to be front and center, but the bassist is notable for his presence more than the drummer is. And if you're familiar with this track, you've listened to it a lot, you know what I'm talking about, but he shouldn't get in the way. I think in the low end, the TRN Kirin does fine. When we get into the treble, we're right on Elton John and ELO, which is relevant to that because piano keys and the like. Philadelphia Freedom, Someone Saved My Life Tonight. I thought those started to give a hint of what was coming. Philadelphia Freedom, shine on me 'cause I love you. That is front and center in a way that's notably a little bit unusual. Not bad, not honky, not really shouty, but forward, notably forward. As I get to vocal evaluation, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, 2 male, 2 female, the different singing configurations, a lead with 3 backing, kind of 2 people taking the lead, like a duet and some backing. It could be male or female. There's a lot of vocals, and the vocals exist in a range where if the mids are tuned poorly, you're going to notice it. Whether there's scooped mids or the mids are forward, where this is upper mid forward, it's a significant gain region, the ear gain. Gold Dust Woman, pretty much everything. I thought Songbird, which is a Christy McVie joint, was Oh Daddy. Christy McVie's voice stood out more than Stevie Nicks. If you're familiar with the singers on this album, it was barely tolerable, actually, and this is one of the better recorded. This is my go-to for vocals. This wouldn't be a set that you would listen to for vocals, so there should be a bats mark, because I don't think that this really plays that very well. I think that stuff with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks sounds less offensive than Christy McVie, because just the harmonics of her voice are much more notable. Okay, ghetto edit. So Fleetwood Mac, Christy McVie, intense. Moving along. Next would be Heart. Here we go. The Wilson Sisters. I listen to 3 tracks usually on this album, and it's the first 3. Magic Man, Dreamboat Annie, and Crazy on You. The Magic Man, the intro to that, I thought sounded dope. A little bit intense, but I actually enjoyed that kind of replay. Dreamboat Annie, Fantasy Child, I thought was good. Crazy on You, jumped out at me by surprise, and I thought, whoa, that's way too much. And that is related definitely to the upper mid tuning, which is essentially the gain region, and also the peak that's right at 5K. Made itself known right here, and I kind of was into the music. I don't listen to just the 6, 7, 8, 9 songs that I mentioned in the video. I listen to a lot of stuff that I usually show you guys, which is actually right here, but I don't want to talk about every song because you'll get sleepy and check out. This jumped out at me, actually. crazy on you. I thought, whoa. Now, take this with a massive grain of salt, because after going through that, I said to myself, Neil Young's going to kill me. His nasally voice is going to actually jump all over me. And I thought that, and I fulfilled my own imagined destiny, and it actually did. Helpless, 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 in that Neil Young voice. Yeah, no. Oh man, take a look at my life. I'm a lot like you. No, that was way too intense. I believe it, but I was expecting that when I got there. So again, take that with a grain of salt. So I thought that Fleetwood Mac, Christy McVie in particular, didn't sound great. Female vocals, no. My personal preference of the way it should be replayed. I do notice that people that are into K-pop sometimes don't mind, like the SSR by Moondrop with substantial gain. It's all about the library. Let's remember that. My library, that's not really a good thing. So I would say that all three of these will get it equal or a bats, because I wouldn't consider them to be the way that I'd want my library to be replayed. Now, so the bass is fine. There's nothing itself that jumps out about low frequency. I think that the mids are, because of the upper mids, are not doing that well. If we go to treble, upper mids to treble crossover pretty much, and we start with Led Zeppelin, Hey Hey What Can I Do? There's multiple cymbal strikes, to be specific, on the version that I have. 7, 13, 18, 28, 37, 41, 47, 53, 59. Every single one of them is substantial and sounds like it has a long tail with a little bit of air at the end, which is a oddly stimulating thing for being as far out as it is, that emphasis. Now, I've taken lots of music and put it through a spectrogram, which turns the audio into a visual. There's not a lot actually going on up there. However, there is something going on up there. That sense of air and the boost that it'll give to some very late harmonics can become very strange sounding, and this exhibited that when it came to cymbal strikes on this track, and also No More, No More by Aerosmith, to be very specific. Those are two tracks that I found to be non-ideal for cymbal strikes. Now, totally switching is another way to take that tuning. And by the way, I don't wreck this set, but I want to plus minus. Little Feat, Waiting for Columbus, Dixie Chicken. Leonard Skinner, One More From the Road. U2, still haven't found what I'm looking for, the live version album. They all sounded huge, and it instantly reminded me of a set called the Fido A83. I believe it's that version. Had this big shark fin. It kind of did the same thing. It made everything sound huge, and that's really not ideal a lot of the time. But when you're listening to live stuff, it does make it sound a little more large, which adds to the whole experience of having a crowd out on your left and right and front and behind, maybe, depending on how they record it. That kind of tuning that's right there really helps with that. And then you could tamp that down. Let's say, for example, you like the SSR3. This might be a set you'd like. And then you would have one EQ point to play with until you got to a tolerable / enjoyable point, and then you could probably love the set. I personally don't wreck it. I don't think it's a great set, but I do note that the live recordings that I listened to, I thought did sound good. When I listened to Michael Jackson, because I love this album and it's very, very well produced, I realized that a lot of the stuff on this, like Billie Jean, and then you image the old video where he's walking on the tiles, and Billie Jean and a lot of the stuff. Thriller's kind of sounds loud, but again, it's got this spooky, in a mansion, haunted house. There's always this sense of stuff around you and coming at you, but not in a spacey way. So I realized today that the Thriller album is not really as great as it's produced. It's not something like a live recording, whether it's U2 or Peter Frampton or Little Feat or Leonard Skinner or whatever your favorite kind of live album is. Thriller's not mixed like that. There was no benefit, really. I just noticed that the low end sounds fine. Everything sounds good. Want to be starting something. I thought this stuff sounded good, but it didn't really benefit at all from that late tuning, and sometimes got on my noise because Michael Jackson can have a up in the high register voice, and it can kind of get fatiguing sometimes on some stuff. The Girl Is Mine would be a track that I thought Baby mine also. So this wouldn't benefit from that, where the live stuff would. So in summary, I don't recommend this set. I think the S12 and the Hook X are two that people that follow a library like mine would like, and the 7 Hertz, if you got it, I guess keep it, because they're not really reinventing the wheel here. The Hook X is a different branch of that tree, but besides that, if you've got the 7 Hertz, the S12, or the Hook X, I don't think there's anything that's really like get off your seat and go buy this. This is definitely not that. And the whole, there's filters that come with this. And part of the appeal is that you're supposed to have 3 different types of tunings. Well, the filters on mine didn't come with any dampening on the other. It's just straight nozzles with nothing on the end. I get on Head-Fi because maybe other people have gotten it. What is it supposed to look like? Well, the person that posted the first pictures, he didn't get it either. So one of your main angles of selling, because that's much more important than a termination that you can switch on your cables, because that's, everybody does that now. Changing 3 filters and getting 3 tuning profiles on a planar set, that's an angle. That's a hook. That's how you can get customers. It doesn't work because you didn't put the dampening material, the impedance fabric on there to change the tuning. So I wouldn't have wrecked it anyway, but because of that, I really wouldn't wreck it. So that's Planar Wars Part 3. Nobody has gotten through here, and it's the same characters from the second video, pretty much. Muse is no good. The Tin Hi-Fi P1 Max is a blank canvas with not too much anything, so you could work with that if you wanted to, because you like EQ. If you want to not play with EQ, the S12 and the Hook X would be stuff that you probably should go for. This wouldn't be one of those. And I'm out.